Imagine navigating this multi-million-dollar cargo ship through, the world's most dangerous congested waters at like 2 o'clock in the morning.
Oh, yeah. Pitch black outside.
Right. And you are surrounded by just the absolute pinnacle of maritime technology. You've got these billion-dollar radar arrays, automated collision alarms, and these ultra-modern spaceship-level ergonomic command chairs.
Chairs that are literally designed to keep you locked in and focused.
Exactly. But here's the catch. If the master of the vessel walks onto that bridge, you had better not be sitting in one.
No way.
Yeah.
You'd be in huge trouble.
Yeah. In fact, on some of these massive ships, those beautiful, super expensive ergonomic chairs are like literally unbolted from the deck and hidden away in a storage closet.
It's honestly just the ultimate triumph of visual discipline over actual functional safety. You have this environment built for cutting-edge engineering, and it gets completely hijacked by an unwritten rule.
Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today, we're looking at an incredibly fascinating, frankly eye-opening piece of source material. We are diving into an article from the DeepDraft.
Right, written by serving Master Mariner Captain Raghu Sharma.
Yes, Captain Sharma. It's titled Standing Watch vs. Seated Bridge. And alongside his analysis, he provided this series of striking photographs from inside modern ship bridges that, honestly, they really expose what goes on when the doors are closed.
The photos, I mean, they do a lot of heavy lifting here because they take us inside this highly isolated workplace that, most people will just never see.
Right, a space where the rules of human endurance are basically suspended. So our mission for this deep dive is to investigate this hidden, deeply ingrained maritime tradition that paradoxically might actually be compromising global shipping safety.
We're really exploring that universal tension between looking disciplined and actually being effective.
Exactly, because whether you work on the ocean or like in a suburban office park, you have experienced this. You've had a job with a rule that exists purely for optics.
Oh, absolutely. Where looking busy or looking professional is valued way more than the actual quality of your output.
Yeah, we call it workplace theater.
Yeah.
But while workplace theater in a cubicle might just cost a company some productivity, the stakes we're talking about today are way higher.
Right. You're dealing with thousands of tons of moving steel, hazardous cargo, and, the literal lives of the crew.
Okay, so let's unpack this. Because Captain Sharma shares an anecdote early in the article that just perfectly captures the absurdity of this culture.
Yeah, the story about the junior officer.
Right. So he describes a junior officer on the night watch that's pitch black out. The master, the ultimate authority on the ship, walks onto the bridge. And he doesn't go to the charts.
He doesn't even check the radar to see what traffic is around them.
Exactly. He walks straight over to the pilot chairs, and he places the back of his hand on the seat cushion. He is, like, literally feeling for residual body heat.
It is such a phenomenal detail. I mean, the master is conducting this silent forensic investigation to see if someone committed the ultimate sin of sitting down.
It's wild. And if that chair is warm, the silent reprimand is instant and severe.
Because the underlying assumption baked into this entire industry is just incredibly blunt. Basically, if you sit, you will sleep.
It feels exactly like that toxic retail adage we all know, right?
Yeah.
Like, if you have time to lean, you have time to clean.
Oh, totally. Or even modern corporate presenteeism, where you have to be seen agonizing at your desk until 7 p.m., even if you finished your work hours ago.
Right. The appearance of suffering is somehow equated with dedication.
Yeah.
But on a commercial vessel, I have to wonder about the legality of this. Like, is this strict standing rule actually maritime law?
Well, what's fascinating here is that the regulations not only ignore the idea of forced standing, they actually point in the complete opposite direction.
Wait, really? Is it not written down in some international treaty somewhere that a watchkeeper must remain vertical for 4 hours straight?
No, not at all. When you look at the international rules governing the sea, specifically the STCW convention, the standards for training and watchkeeping, they are entirely focused on functional outcomes.
So they just care about what you're doing, not how you look doing it.
Exactly. The law mandates maintaining a proper lookout. It mandates maintaining situational awareness. It mandates being fit for duty.
Okay.
But nowhere does any international convention prescribe the physical posture a human being must assume while achieving those outcomes.
So the law is essentially agnostic about your posture.
Yeah.
It only cares if you, hit the iceberg or not.
Right. And it actually goes even further than being agnostic. There are international maritime labor conventions, like the ILO MLC 2006, that act as a global bill of rights for seafarers.
Okay, so there are actual labor protections.
Yes, and they place a binding legal obligation on ship owners to provide adequate working environments, meaning you cannot legally provide a workspace that physically destroys your crew over time.
That makes total sense.
And on top of that, the official IMO ergonomic guidance, which is MSC Circ. 982, explicitly acknowledges that bridge workstations should be designed to support both seated and standing operations.
Wow. So the engineers who design the ships are literally being told by regulators to build chairs.
They are. So this relentless enforcement of standing watch is not rooted in international law. It is just a cultural ghost.
A cultural ghost. I like that.
Yeah, it's a tradition that prioritizes the visual aesthetic of alertness over the actual science of human endurance.
And when we get into the science of human endurance, this story takes a genuinely dark turn.
Yeah.
Because if the law doesn't require standing, then enforcing this cultural rule is imposing a massive physical tax on these seafarers.
For absolutely zero regulatory benefit.
Right. In the sources provided by Captain Sharma, there's this medical photograph that, it made me physically wince.
Oh, the varicose veins photo. Yeah, that's rough.
It shows a pair of legs with highly advanced varicose veins, and they're heavily raised, twisted, and they just look like these thick, bruised cords running just under the skin. It looks incredibly painful.
The medical reality of what these officers go through is severe. If we look at occupational health literature across basically any industry, prolonged static standing is universally classified as a severe risk exposure.
Okay, to understand why, we have to look at basic human mechanics.
Exactly. To return blood from your feet back up to your heart against the force of gravity, your body relies on a mechanism called the calf muscle pump.
Give me a visual for that. Like, how does the calf muscle act as a pump?
So think of your veins down there like a tube of toothpaste, and your calf muscle is the hand squeezing it from the bottom up.
Oh, okay, got it.
All right, so every time you take a step, you flex that muscle, it squeezes the vein, forces the blood up through a one-way valve, and pumps it back toward your heart.
So it's a highly efficient, dynamic system, but it's designed for movement.
Yes. But when you lock your knees and stand relatively still for hours, that pump essentially just shuts off.
Meaning the toothpaste just sits in the bottom of the tube.
Precisely. And gravity takes over, the blood starts to pool in the lower extremities.
Which leads to a massive increase in venous pressure, I'd imagine.
Right. The veins stretch, those delicate one-way valves begin to fail, and you get the twisted, raised cords you saw in that photograph.
The data on this is unequivocal, too.
Yeah, there's a major Danish cohort study that looked at workers exposed to prolonged standing, and they found a relative risk of 1.78 for developing these vascular issues.
Compared to workers who don't stand all day.
Right.
So they're nearly twice as likely to destroy the veins in their legs just by showing up to work.
Exactly. But we have to remember, a ship is not a normal workplace. The sources emphasize this massive maritime multiplier effect.
Because a watchkeeper isn't just standing on a solid concrete floor like a factory worker. A cargo ship is a moving, vibrating platform.
Right. You have the vibration of a multi-story diesel engine traveling up through the steel deck right into the bones of your feet.
Plus, the vessel is constantly pitching and rolling with the ocean swells.
So to simply remain upright in that environment, your body is forced to make thousands of tiny, continuous micro-adjustments.
You're constantly firing, stabilizing muscles just to keep your balance.
Which accelerates muscular fatigue exponentially. So you have the sustained venous pressure from fighting gravity, combined with the extreme physical fatigue of constantly stabilizing yourself on a moving deck.
And add to that the fact that these crews are dealing with widespread vitamin D deficiency. The article mentions this is a huge compounding factor because they're working inside enclosed bridges, often pulling night shifts, completely out of the sun.
Yeah, and vitamin D is crucial for maintaining the structural resilience of your blood vessels.
So when you're deficient, your veins literally lose their elasticity.
They lose their elasticity and strength under sustained load. So you take a crew member who is already vascularly compromised by a lack of sunlight, and then you force them to stand rigidly on a vibrating, rolling metal deck for 4 hours.
It's just a guaranteed recipe for physical breakdown.
Absolutely.
Which brings us to the most tragic irony of this entire deep dive. If a junior officer follows the unwritten rule, stands for their entire watch to look disciplined, and inevitably develops these severe varicose veins.
They can actually lose their career over it.
Wait, does this mean seafarers can actually lose their jobs just because they followed an unwritten rule to stand?
They absolutely can, because in the maritime industry, chronic venous insufficiency isn't just a painful annoyance, it becomes a professional liability.
Because of the pain and the swelling.
Right. The pain, the heaviness, and the swelling cause severe functional impairment. But worse than that, during a seafarer's mandatory periodic medical exams, advanced cases of varicose veins can result in a verdict of medical unfitness.
That is just insane. You follow the boss's rule, you destroy your legs to look professional, and the industry revokes your license to work because your legs are destroyed.
It is a vicious cycle. The article quotes an officer from a maritime health study who plainly states, varieties of varicose veins are common among mariners because we are always on our feet.
So it's treated as an inevitable cost of doing business, rather than a preventable occupational injury.
Unfortunately, yes.
Okay, I hear you on the physical pain, and the medical science is undeniable. But I have to push back here on behalf of those old-school sea captains. Let's look at their core philosophy. If you sit, you sleep.
Ah, right. The old alertness argument.
Yeah, because if I'm in a pitch-black room at 3 a.m. looking at a glowing radar screen, and you put me in a plush, ergonomic, padded chair, I'm going to fall asleep. My couch proves this to me every single night.
Sure.
So how can sitting possibly be safer? Doesn't the physical discomfort of standing at least force the crew to stay awake during a mind-numbingly boring watch?
See, that is the ultimate myth we need to dismantle. It's the alertness myth. Standing is culturally framed as this foolproof safeguard against dozing off.
Right.
But in the realm of human factors engineering, alertness is governed by cognitive engagement and a manageable workload, not by self-inflicted pain. In fact, forcing someone to stand can actually destroy their situational awareness through a phenomenon called cognitive tunneling.
Cognitive tunneling. Break that down for me. How does standing tunnel your vision?
Okay, so your brain only has a finite amount of processing bandwidth at any given moment. And as we just established, prolonged standing introduces significant physical strain, pooling blood, and eventually real pain.
Right, your legs are killing you.
Over a 4-hour watch, that pain demands attention. It starts competing for your cognitive bandwidth. If 40% of your brain's processing power is suddenly dedicated to managing the burning sensation in your lower back and the heaviness in your legs...
Then you only have 60% left to monitor the horizon for a rogue fishing vessel.
Exactly. Instead of making you more alert, the pain physically narrows your attention inward as the brain tries to cope with the physical fatigue.
So instead of scanning the radar, your internal monologue just becomes, my knees are locking up, my back is killing me, how many minutes are left on this shift?
You are technically standing upright, but you are absolutely not observing your environment. You are present in body only.
Wow. And the photographs Captain Sharma provided of the night watch really drive this home. It is incredibly dark in these spaces.
Oh yeah, completely blacked out to preserve night vision.
The room is illuminated only by the soft, eerie red glow of the instrument dials and screens. And there's one specific photo of a watchkeeper that really stands out. He is on his feet, technically satisfying the standing rule,
Right.
but he is leaning so heavily against the main console, completely slumped over, just staring blankly out into the pitch-black window.
That image perfectly encapsulates passive monitoring. The posture remains vertical to satisfy the hierarchy, but the mental engagement has plummeted to zero.
So a guy slumped against a window, staring blankly into the dark, is supposedly safer than someone sitting down and actively checking the radar.
It relies on the false assumption that physical discomfort equals mental vigilance. During low workload periods in the middle of the ocean, the real risk isn't instantly dropping into REM sleep. The real risk is monotony.
Right, you just zone out.
Reduced stimuli allow fatigue to creep in, and the brain basically shifts into screensaver mode.
And what makes this even more frustrating is that modern ships already possess built-in technological safeguards to prevent the exact scenario those old captains are terrified of.
Exactly. We don't need to rely on the pain of standing to keep people awake. We have the BNW ACE.
The Bridge Navigational Watch Alarm System. Essentially a dead man's switch for a cargo ship.
That is the best way to describe it. It's a mandatory system designed to ensure the watchkeeper is conscious and active.
How does it actually work in practice?
It forces the officer to periodically acknowledge their presence, usually by pressing a reset button or moving past a motion sensor within a strict defined time window.
And if they don't hit the button?
A sequence of alarms triggers. First, a local visual alarm, then an audible alarm on the bridge. If that is ignored, it escalates to the master's cabin, and eventually, it can wake up the entire crew.
Wow, so the ship is literally hardwired to ensure you are awake.
And the master can even adjust the required check-in interval based on traffic conditions. If you're in a congested strait, you might have to hit that button every 3 minutes.
So system-driven checks and active scanning are what keep a ship safe, not static physical strain.
Right. Regularly comparing the visual horizon to the radar, checking the automated identification systems, monitoring the electronic charts. Mental connection to the environment is the only thing that matters.
Here's where it gets really interesting, though. To show where this logic truly falls apart, we have to look at the most critical job on the bridge. We need to talk about the helmsman, the person whose hands are actually on the wheel, steering the ship manually.
This is the ultimate stress test of the standing philosophy, and it fails spectacularly.
The article paints this vivid, highly stressful picture. Imagine a helmsman manually steering a massive cargo ship through the Malacca Strait, Singapore Strait, or Strait of Hormuz.
These are incredibly narrow, highly congested waterways packed with other giant ships.
And the helmsman is constantly adjusting the wheel, responding to rapid-fire helm orders from a pilot for 4 hours straight. The task demands extreme fine control and immediate response, yet they are forced to do it standing.
With virtually no provision for posture variation. To steer a ship accurately for hours, your body requires physical stability.
Because if you're constantly fighting the roll of the ship just to stay upright, your fine motor control is actively degrading.
Exactly. You are introducing unnecessary physical noise into a task that requires absolute precision.
And when you look at the design evolution shown in the source photos, the contradiction just hits you over the head.
Yeah.
There's one photo of an older bridge setup featuring this incredibly awkward, tall wooden chair.
Oh, the pilot chair.
It has no padding, no armrests. It literally looks like a giant baby's high chair shoved into the corner. It screams, "We only put this here because the regulators made us, but please don't ever use it."
It looks like an afterthought because culturally it was an afterthought. It exists completely outside the integrated system of the bridge console.
But then you contrast that with the photos of a modern, fully integrated bridge system. The engineering is breathtaking. The consoles wrap around the user.
And right in the center are these beautiful, deeply ergonomic, padded black captain's chairs.
Yeah, they slide smoothly on rails. They have joysticks and communication dials built right into the armrests. The naval architects explicitly designed the bridge with the intention that the crew would sit while operating the vessel.
The capability for a safer, more stable seated watch exists. The multi-million-dollar tools are already paid for and installed.
And yet, Captain Sharma points out the most absurd detail from the text.
Huh.
On some vessels, these million-dollar ergonomic chairs are literally unbolted and put into storage. Why on earth would a company spend the money on cutting-edge tech just to hide it in a closet?
Well, if we connect this to the bigger picture, it reveals a massive cultural divide in global shipping. This is not a debate about naval architecture. It's an operational choice driven entirely by the psychology of hierarchy.
How so? Like, is it different depending on where the company's from?
Yes. Captain Sharma notes a very clear pattern based on management origin. Under many East Asian and South Asian management structures, he specifically points to traditions originating in Japan, China, Korea, and India. Bridge behavior is intensely influenced by a top-down, rigid hierarchy.
Where visible posture is directly equated with respect for authority.
Exactly. In these specific operational cultures, the physical act of standing is a highly visible signal of submission and discipline. The idea of a junior officer sitting down while a senior officer is present, or sitting comfortably while on duty, is deeply taboo.
It's interpreted as insubordination or laziness.
Right. It does not matter if the junior officer's performance is flawless or if they are expertly managing the radar. The visual of them sitting overrides the reality of their competence.
So the ergonomic chair is unbolted and thrown into a locker simply to appease the ego of the hierarchy. The visual of discipline is more important than the tool designed to keep the ship safe.
But contrast that with the other end of the spectrum. The article highlights that European operators, specifically noting companies out of Denmark and France, tend to approach bridge management through a completely different lens.
They generally align their operational practices with the actual ergonomic design of the ship.
Yes, they actually use the spaceship chairs they paid for.
Wow.
Because they view seating not as a luxury or a sign of weakness, but as a necessary tool to manage workload. They understand that a rested, physically comfortable navigator is a safer, more alert navigator.
So they embrace the fact that sustaining attention over a grueling night watch requires mitigating physical fatigue.
Exactly. The gap we are analyzing today isn't a gap in technology. The engineering problem was solved years ago. The gap is entirely in human management.
So what does this all mean? We've navigated through the spirit of international maritime law, the agonizing realities of occupational health, the psychology of cognitive tunneling, and deep-seated cultural traditions.
And the final takeaway is surprisingly stark.
Standing-only watchkeeping has zero legal basis, zero ergonomic justification, and actively harms the crew physically and mentally.
What it does do, definitively, is cause accumulated, career-ending physical harm to the crew by destroying their vascular health.
Right. And the capability for a safer, seated watch exists in the design of modern ships right now. The ergonomic chairs are installed, the automated alarm systems are active, but it is being overridden by an outdated culture.
The risk isn't in the design, it's in the operational choice.
Exactly. The greatest risk on the high seas isn't found in the design of the vessels. It is found in the operational vanity of the managers.
And, whether you are navigating the Strait of Hormuz or managing a marketing team in an office building, performance should be defined by engagement, endurance, and effectiveness.
If you are prioritizing optics over those metrics, you're actively degrading your team's capability.
Everything else, especially just looking the part, has to be secondary to actually doing the job.
It is a powerful lens to view any workplace through. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive. We want to leave you with a final thought to mull over today on your own.
Think about your own industry, your own daily life, or your own office.
Yeah, what modern tools, what incredible efficiencies, or simply better ways of working are being intentionally ignored or literally unbolted and put in storage in your world simply to satisfy the ego or the visual standards of an older generation's hierarchy?
It really makes you wonder how many warm chairs we are all still checking for.
Absolutely. Keep questioning the unwritten rules. We'll catch you next time.